So the thing with being in a minor party is, how are you going to get your candidates into office, right? That is really pushing water uphill. And that's essentially why I've been doing this work, is I want to make sure that we can actually have political innovation in this state. So that's one level of personal background. Or professional level of backgrounder is that my master's degree is in public administration. My undergraduate is political science, and I have over 20 years experience with nonprofits and nonprofit management. And so RCV Colorado got started in 2016, when that was the worst election we'd ever seen. Simpler times. Anyway, so we have been doing this. We are really excited about the progress we've been able to make here in Colorado. Huge shout out to the clerks and all of those people in Colorado that make elections work, because we lead the nation in solidly run elections for a reason. It's that our county clerks and our local administrators, our Secretary of State's office is absolutely open to getting better. They are interested in continuous process improvement, and they've worked very closely with us to make sure that ranked choice can roll out and roll out reliably. So let me do my quick screen share and get into what the hex is ranked choice voting, now that you know who I am. And I'll make frowny faces at my screen. Because I'm trying to figure out how to screen share. That's why. There it is. Share, and it may or may not allow. I may need to just drop a link to it in the chat. How about I do that? Then someone who's a little more, I'm having trouble. I'm acting my age is what I'm doing.
I can share for you.
Thank you. That would be so righteous. I say as if it's my age has anything to do with it. Okay. Let's see. So there's a link to the presentation. Hey, Joshua. Good to see you. Forward party. Yay. All right. So when you hop on the screen share, I'll just say next when I'm ready for the next screen.
Perfect. Is that coming through?
There it is. Yep.
Awesome.
Yay, thank you so much. And so ranked choice voting strengthens democracy. So we'll go to the next screen. Oh, and John Lemke is here. He's one of our volunteers and also a member of the Forward Party. Okay, so this is a thing that everybody who has voted has lived with. Have you ever voted the lesser of two evils? So, you know, this keeps coming up because of the election system we have, right? Because you'll waste your vote on a minor party candidate, or people feel that they'll waste their vote on a minor party candidate if they really vote the way they want, right? They might end up helping the candidate they like the least win. So, and then I'll put in a minor party sidebar here. I was sure in the presidential election that Joe Biden was going to take it. So I voted my minor party person so I could be heard saying, the environment, please. So there's that. It's not 100%, but that's where people are. People feel like you cannot vote for the minor party, and that impedes our ability to organize as parties and our ability to raise funds for our candidates, and also for our candidates to be taken seriously. So there's the lesser of two evils conversation. So we'll hop to the next screen, which is any voting system like the one we have now that pressures voters to pick a lesser of two evils is not freedom for the voters, and it's not fairness for the candidates. So we will hop to the next screen. Okay, so ranked choice voting. It has been used in the US for over 100 years. It's been used in smaller towns, so they have worked out the bugs. They've run it through, it's been through the courts. Truly, I don't know how many times it's been through the courts. We know it's one person, one vote, that it holds constitutional water. So we know it works and works well. It gives the voters more voice. So you get to securely rank your choices and get to say what it is you actually want. You might even get what you actually want. And even if you don't get your first choice, you are still heard loud and clear for what it is you really want to see happen. Another thing it does is it gives us voters more choice. So we get more variety of candidates in the race in ranked choice elections, because nobody's the spoiler, nobody's breaking things, nobody's going to be mad at anybody for running. You can freely run. If you want to serve, you can run. And what we see in city after city and now state after state, excitingly enough, is that you get more candidates, more variety of candidates. So there's more viewpoints. There's also more demographic variety. So there's more people of color. There's more women running and winning at rates comparable to the general population. So that's been really a powerful change. And you also, and the real underpinning point here is that it's more fairness, that the winners have to earn their win. So we can hold office holders accountable. Currently, and I'm just going to go on my green thing here, I'll say that when I call my state representative and say, could you please cap some of these, orphaned wells, I can hear them thinking, what are you going to do, vote for the other guy? And it's crazy making, right? And we can't really hold our office holders accountable. And that's where Forward Party comes in, is that you're able to innovate and show new ideas and new things that can happen. And when we have ranked choice in more and more races here in Colorado, you all will be able to run your candidates and be heard loud and clear and be part of the conversation. So it is overall, it is more fair, and that's why it's supported all over the political map. Republicans, Democrats, independents, libertarians, Greens. This is a shared value. I like to say that everyone can agree that secure, reliable, free and fair elections are a good idea. And people can agree that 2-ply toilet paper is a good idea. It's one of those things people agree on. It doesn't matter where you are on the political spectrum. So let's hop to the next screen. And we'll just see where ranked choice is currently used here in the US. Now, it's used in most modern democracies. So I'll put a pin in that. But here in the US, we were the first modern democracy, but we are slow to update. So it is used in statewide races. So that's not every single race in the state, but it's for your statewide races like governor and president, for the presidential or for the national offices and for the state offices. So it's used in Maine and Alaska. And then it's used in local races in a number of states, including Colorado. And there's a few more coming online fairly soon. And then military and overseas voters use it in some of the southern states. And the reason is they have runoff elections and those ballots don't always get back in time. And, first of all, you shouldn't leave any American out, but the idea that you are leaving out active service military folk is just like, mind-bendingly bad idea. So they are, salute to these states for doing it. They're using ranked choice to make sure that their overseas voters can vote and be heard in the runoffs that they have. We also see it's been used in the presidential primaries it's a total of 5 states that used it in 2020. And and one of them is Alaska, which is why if you're counting, you'll see 4 states. But that's the overarching lay of the land nationwide. As this has been growing, it's used in 55 cities right now. And we'll hop to the next screen. Awesome. So it's used here in Colorado. Basalt and Telluride have used it. Telluride, my hat is off to their town clerk, Tiffany Kavanaugh. She worked out all the details on how to run ranked choice successfully according to Colorado law. We know it works, and we're replicating her success everywhere else. So for instance, Basalt used ranked choice in 2020 when they were the epicenter of the COVID outbreak here in Colorado. And they had no problems. People understood it. They were able to manage their elections. We know it works. And we had a piece of legislation passed last year. And what that does is it gets all of the larger cities ready to run ranked choice, and it gets us ready to run statewide. So county coordinated races can run ranked choice now. It will start in 2023 with Broomfield, and maybe not Boulder. We'll find out in November which year Boulder is going to be running their elections. So we have that. So that's exciting. So we know that we will prove up our case that ranked choice can be run in larger cities by county coordinated elections, which is exactly what the county clerks association told us they needed. So there it is. So it's ready to roll. So let's hop to the next slide and get an idea of what the heck this thing is. Okay, so this is what a ranked choice ballot looks like, a simplified version. What it looks like in practice is you get up to 6 choices, and then you can have, lots and lots of candidates. But this is the example we give people. You just say who you love, who you like, who you can live with. So let's say your sweetheart is running out to the supermarket and going to pick up some cookies. So you say, well, look, I'm in the mood for chocolate chip, but if they are out, I'll take the chocolate. But you know what, if they're out of chocolate, I will take the peanut butter because I am jonesing for the sugar. Please get me some cookies. Okay, but you don't have to vote them all. If you don't like peanut butter, don't vote peanut butter, right? So you just say what you honestly like. Now, most people have lots of lived experience with having a fallback plan. If you go somewhere and they're out of your favorite kind of cookie, you just order your second favorite. People do this all the time. Does anybody have a question about the ballot?
If you do, feel free to raise your hand. I don't think you can unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Sass raised a hand.
Hi, thank you for calling on me. So I'm looking at just like the ballot that's on the screen. So first choice chocolate chip, second choice chocolate, and I'm wondering about so if chocolate, let's say chocolate can beat peanut butter, but because I put chocolate chip first, chocolate gets eliminated first. Wouldn't it then be in my better interest to put chocolate first to make sure that it faces peanut butter at the end?
Good point. Well, it always does best for, well, we'll show you in the tally. You will see on the tally why you always want to rank your honest favorites. But so that's the next slide. So I'll say that's an excellent question because I will get right to that. But people understand how the ballot works. Okay, so let's hop to the next screen and we'll get a look at it. And this is, they count up everybody's first choice votes. If somebody has a majority in the first round or they've passed the finish line in the first round, they win because that's totally clear. That's who earned it. In real life, about half of the races are won in the first round. So we'll hop to the next slide. But let's say in this example, There we go. We count up all the first choice votes. And nobody has a majority. Now, this is a rare example that we have because, well, you'll see it's a rare example that you have the peanut butter coming out ahead. But every now and then you have someone who didn't really earn their win, who would not have won if it weren't for that extra candidate in the race. But it happens, and this is based on a real world election here in Colorado. And so we know that this happens over and over, but let's take a look at this example. We count up everybody's first choice votes and nobody has a majority. So we're going to have what's called an instant runoff. So let's hop to the next slide. What we do is we eliminate the candidate in last place. Right, and we kind of go sequentially. We go from whoever has the fewest first choice votes because we want to give each candidate as much a chance as possible. But B has been eliminated, but not those voters. We want to know what they think. So we go back and look at just those ballots and we see, well, if you can't have your very favorite, what's your second favorite? And we see that it gets split between, let's hop to the next screen. There we go. That most of those votes went over to chocolate rather than peanut butter. So you see, if you had, to Sass's point, if he had ranked chocolate ahead of his true favorite chocolate chip, I mean, you know, chocolate still would have won, but chocolate chip didn't have a chance. So you still want to rank your favorite person number one, because then you're really heard. And one of the things I'm hearing from office holders is, you know, there are a mixed batch. Some people are there for whatever reason, and others are really taking it seriously, and they are there to serve. They do so much work for the worst job ever. So, I mean, again, salute to service, right? They get into office and they work darn hard for the people in their district. And they don't know currently, if they're in a, you know, they don't currently know, did they earn their win? Were people holding their nose and voting for them because they're the lesser of two evils, or because they had a really strong platform? So many office holders do want to know. So if they went, let's say you're a candidate, let's pick on Curtis. Let's say Curtis is a candidate and he wins in the first round. Well, then he knows Forward Party has a great platform. People really like what he wants to do for that community. So he knows he should go forward with that. But if he doesn't win in the first round, he's going to have to look at how he built his win. Who else voted for him? Where did those votes come from? Because those are the issues the voters care about more. So maybe look at, I mean, still do your platform, but also look at, you know, what were the other issues people had? You know, what are the sticking points? So that's actually really good information for the office holders because they're getting a better idea of what the voters want. Okay, let's hop to the next. All right, so what this means for Colorado, as we have it in more and more towns, and you may have noticed this in your town, the word is astroturf, that gets used in political world, is when you see somebody who just reeks of out-of-state money, and you just know they're only in there to throw the race. And it happens all the time. There are all the time. So what it means when we have ranked choice here in more and more places is you can't spoil a race. If you want to add in a new candidate, sure, but you're not messing anything up for anybody. People are still going to find consensus around what they want. So let's hop to the next slide. All right, and this is another thing, is that it incentivizes issue-based campaigns because the candidates may need those second or third choice rankings. Now, what the heck does that mean? you have to run on what you plan to do. You can't just sling mud. And there was a learning curve on this topic in Alaska. The Democratic candidate ran a model ranked choice campaign. And she's a very conservative Democrat in a very conservative state. And her slogan was faith, family, and fishing, right? Know your audience. And this is who she is and where she's from. She ran on that, and she ran on what she planned to do for Alaska. Now, the two candidates competing against her were two Republicans, and it was Sarah Palin, who we all know, and Nick Begich, who's from a big political family in Alaska. And Sarah Palin ran on being Sarah Palin and wanting to yell at Joe Biden or what have you, but she didn't lay out a solid plan on what she planned to do for Alaska. Now, Nick Begich, on the other hand, ran on being a conservative who was smarter than Sarah Palin. This tells me even less about what he plans to do in office. These were not good campaigns. So the people in Alaska deserve better. So we certainly hope we see a better campaign out of them in October. So because look, Mary Peltola did not win in the first round, but when they eliminated the candidate with the fewest first choice votes, which was the guy who just claimed to be smarter than Sarah Palin, when he was eliminated, most of his people went over to Mary Peltola because she wasn't Sarah Palin. So, correct, she is not. So that's kind of how that built. But also she gave them reason. She welcomed them. She said, I'm worried about, the clean water and our fish. I'm open to, energy development, and it's absolutely a conversation worth having. And we also need to talk about our fisheries and the health of our families. So let's do that. And people were interested. So you have to tell the voters what you plan to do. So that's the next slide, please. And we know that ranked choice means the voters like it. And this is an average number. It's the true range is between 85 and 95% of the voters love it or at least like it. And the love category is larger than the like category. And the remaining about 10% tends to be meh, gray. The I can't stand it department is like 1%. It's pretty small. So like I say, this is, if you have a product with this kind of consumer satisfaction, you are to apply toilet paper or like water or something. Like, it is really straightforward that people like this because they get to be heard and they know that you get a fair outcome. So we can go to the next slide. Oh, okay, so then we have, and this is, I wanted to make sure you all were aware of this book by Lee Drutman, who is a leading scholar in the space. We were so happy when this book came out in 2020 because it's exactly what we've been talking about since 2016, is that we need more parties, more voices at the table. And this book, and actually if you QR coded it, it's just to the conversation, but it's what he's really, oh yes, Curtis highly recommends the book. It's fantastic. It talks about ranked choice voting and also how we can use it for proportional representation, which is what I call RCV 102. And I try to not stuff that into people's heads right after they've had RCV 101, because you have already had full days. I have on college classes inflicted the two things in one talk, but I'll cut you guys some slack. But Curtis and I wrote an op-ed on the topic, which was pointing out that everyone should have their fair share of the say. And so that was about proportional representation, that Currently, if you're a conservative in Denver, you get nothing. All the way up to president, you get nobody representing you and your interests. And if you are a liberal in Weld County, well, you've got senators, US senators, but other than that, nobody is looking out for you or speaking up for the issues you care about. And so what using ranked choice for proportional means is that you get a broader variety of viewpoints at the table. So the legislation being supported by Lee Drutman, and he just did an op-ed in the New York Times about it. It would be breaking things into 5 winner districts. So for many offices, which means you would only, anyway, you'd be able to get forward party people into office, higher office sooner and faster. So long story short, absolutely worth your while. And with that, I think we're good. We'll just do, oh, here we go. And we also have this for your conservative friends, or for some of y'all who have come from that viewpoint. Our colleague at the Independence Institute, Barry Fagan, he's a professor over at the Air Force Academy, did the deep dive into the historical look at this. What would the founding fathers say about ranked choice voting? And, you know, not only does he support ranked choice, he supports proportional representation. So I think that's it. There's that. There's our website. And we're out tabling at least twice a month. So that's always fun, actually, because people really respond to the message. You know, did you know that elections don't have to be awful? What? Seriously? Yes. Oh, well, you know, tell me how do we make it a positive experience where we're building a win together, we're building consensus together, we're talking about issues, not this tweedledee, tweedledum thing that we've been doing, you know, since the 1700s. You know, it's been a while and it's time to update. Okay, so I guess we could put the slides away and have a conversation.
Fantastic. What we'll do, folks, is go ahead and drop your name and, you know, just an idea of what your question is into the chat if you've got a question, and then we'll call on people one at a time. I know we kind of had one already from SAS, so if you want to ask about Aspen, Colorado, go ahead.
Awesome. Okay, so now our official slogan at RCV for Colorado is more voice. Our unofficial slogan is don't Aspen it up. Aspen rolled out ranked choice voting, and they didn't want to do a hand count, and they didn't have software available. So they just hired somebody's, you know, brother-in-law to write up a program for them, and it was glitchy. So then they just threw the baby out with the bathwater and got rid of ranked choice altogether. Now, since that happened, it's, you know, rolled out reliably. There is software that's been certified. There are risk limiting audits on ranked choice voting. So we know that we are ready for a solid rollout, and there are, you know, city council members and people in Aspen who are very interested in bringing it back. So we look forward to that, but that is the Aspen story. And that's why that is our second slogan.
Awesome. Is that what you're looking for, Sas?
Yeah, that helped. And there are other people who have questions too, so let's move on to them.
Perfect. Got another one coming in from Tim Hibbs about ballot exhaustion. You want to go ahead, Tim?
Sure. I was reading a conservative article against ranked choice voting, and I can't remember where I read it from. It was recent, and it didn't seem very well argued to me, but the point that the author was focusing on was that ranked choice voting is open to the concept of ballot exhaustion. And it seemed to me that non-ranked choice voting is also open to ballot exhaustion, meaning, your ballot is exhausted if your candidate doesn't win. But can you explain what ballot exhaustion is, and is it a valid concern about ranked choice voting or not?
Sure. Okay. So great question. So what the heck is ballot? We call them becoming inactive. So let's say you only rank one candidate, and you are free to do that, right? It's your ballot, do whatever you like. So if you rank one and then your candidate gets eliminated, your ballot becomes inactive. And so that's like saying, oh, I don't feel like voting in the runoff, which, you're free to do. Now so that is a thing, and it can happen. And that's why we encourage people to rank their ballots and, rank at least 3, if there's 3 you like, rank them, please do it. So that's kind of how we handle that, but it is absolutely a statistic we look at because we want to gauge how well the system is serving the voters and what the political landscape could do better to interface with those voters better. So yes, it's a number people keep their eyes on. We see, for instance, and I'll pick on Santa Fe because they use exactly the same software we have. They're in our region. They rolled it out. Their turnout increased. And some of the ballots also became inactive because some people said, my way or the highway, I like my, less popular candidate. And if I can't vote for that candidate, then I throw my hands up in the air and say, the rest of you are equally bad, which is a valid thing to say. If that's what you mean to say, by all means, say it. So we saw that as some of the ballots became inactive, but because of the increased turnout, because people like it better, it didn't really change up the number of people voting in the final round as compared to prior years. So in other words, it kind of comes out in the wash.
Okay.
The increased turnout, and then a few of the ballots become inactive because there's always that guy that person who says, my way or the highway.
Mm-hmm.
So
it seems like you're almost shooting yourself in the foot if you don't, make the difficult choice as a voter to, okay, fine, I hate the, number 2, 3, 4, and 5, but then, a binary comparison would be, do I hate 2 more than 3 or 3 more than 2? And then, do it that way. I don't know that people would necessarily follow that logic, but
yeah, people do, but they do have to be encouraged. So we see that candidates say, so for instance, let's imagine Forward Party is running someone for a House district in Colorado, and that it's on a ranked choice ballot, and that you would say rank our, I'm going to pick on Curtis again because I am, rank Curtis number 1, but rank another candidate number 2. Because this candidate has similar viewpoints, you'll be getting something not as good, but at least in the same ballpark, right? So that lets your voters know what to do as their, backup plan, but it also puts out the welcome mat for that candidate's voters, right? So if you really like that other candidate better, you'd say, oh, well, maybe I rank Curtis number 2. And so that's how you build your win. So that's an important thing. And it also cues the voters to understand that they need to rank their ballots. And there was a problem in Alaska, for instance, with Sarah Palin was Sarah Palin, and she was saying, oh, ranked choices is newfangled. I had to look up the fangle, but it's a thing from the 16th century. It's a thing. It's an innovation. Yes, by the 16th century standards, this is an innovation. Yes, Sarah. but she was discouraging Republican voters from fully ranking their ballots. So, you know, it's possible she could have picked up more votes if only she had, you know, told more people what she planned to do, and also planned to do beyond telling Joe Biden to, you know, take a long walk off a short pier. So that's, anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tim. Next up, we've got Pilar with a question about campaign finance.
Oh, okay. Those are, oh, you
Right.
could,
You said my question. I was slow to unmute. Okay.
Go ahead, Pilar.
I just was wondering what the relationship or implications are for campaign finance. Does it have a neutral, a negative, a positive effect in terms of, it seems like lesser candidates have a possibility of getting in the race without huge amount of bucks.
yes.
But what kind of implications for campaign finance have we seen that might be positive or negative or neutral?
Excellent question. And better yet, I have answers for you. So one is, it's going to be easier to raise money for your candidates because there, you know, no donor wants to waste their money on a candidate with no hope of winning. Right. But if you have good ideas and a fair shot at winning, and your campaign has a good plan, how you're going to, you know, canvas, how you're going, you know, what's your win number, how you're going to get there. You know, if you put out a good case of why people should donate to your campaigns, and also kind of do the grassroots fundraising, you know, you can absolutely raise money in a way that minor parties can't now. So that's one thing. And then a second thing is that we're finding in ranked choice campaigns that money matters less. So you need some money, you need your handbills, you need those, you know, things you leave on, the cards you leave on people's doors, you need the mailers, you need to get your voice out there, get that website up. So you need that, but you don't need the TV ads. You don't need the high dollar stuff in a ranked choice race. What you need is sneakers to sidewalk, because it's all about the conversation. And those AstroTurf you know, candidates never get, you know, they don't have volunteers. They just don't, right? They have maybe people from, anyway, they don't. They can hire a few people, but they don't have actual volunteers. And people at the doors can tell the difference, right? So, and one of the things we're seeing when people are out canvassing is it's different. It's a conversation, right? So that's why you invest your money there. Make sure people have lots of handbills and they're ready to discuss. Like, yeah, you've got the thing you leave at the door, and if they have more questions, here's another handbill on a topic, and you go into that because you're asking them, will you rank my candidate number one? Because this is what they plan to do in office, and won't that materially benefit you and your family? Won't that help your, you know, the whole neighborhood, right? So you talk about those things, and then there's the people who are going to say, nah, I like so-and-so better. Okay, this is not fun as a canvasser. However, it's part of the conversation is, okay, I get that, but what about ranking my candidate number two? Because, and then you go into, you know, the issues, you know, candidate X has. So you have to know, like, you know, the top issue of the other candidates, but to say, well, here's his, you know, my candidate's take on that. And how do you feel about that? And do you want to maybe rank my person number two? And what does that mean? It means, one, they might rank you number two, and you might need that to build a win. They also have a very strong opinion of your candidate now because you listened to them, okay? How often do we just not get listened to? So if you're having the conversation with people, they are thrilled to have it, right? And they might, if they decide they don't like their favorite as much, well, then your candidate gets bumped up to number one. So that's how the canvassing goes. And what we do here in Colorado, and I would certainly hope every other state side eye to Alaska, is to give candidate education events to make sure people understand, here's what your sign looks like. It says Curtis #1, which sounds a little, big-headed. It sounds a little weird, but you have to ask for the #1 vote for that #1 ranking. So these are things we know because it's been used in the US for over 100 years and in many, many more cities over the last 25 years. So we're learning a good deal on how to run a solid campaign. So we want to make sure that you have everything you need to succeed as much as you. So you need some money, but it's a net good to the campaign finance piece of the puzzle, because you don't have to compete, dollar for dollar with whoever has the big money bags.
Awesome. Thanks, Pilar. That was an awesome question. Next up, we've got Grady, and he's got, I think, a quick one and a long one.
Yeah. So the quick one, well, I guess first off, I should just say thank you, Linda, for hosting this. I mean, this is really cool. I think this is really important. So yeah, thank you. But yeah, first question, is there like a website or just a repository somewhere of like facts or statistics about ranked choice voting? Like you mentioned, other countries have different ways that they vote. Like, can I see what countries those are?
Let's see, we do not put all of the deep dive up onto our website because we don't want to create an endless rabbit hole for people to get into, but I'll call out the top examples are Ireland and Australia. And the reason those are the top examples are they use exactly the same systems we would be using. Many other democracies use some sort of ranking system, but they use the party list system, which is a bit different because it doesn't necessarily translate to how Americans think. So in some other countries, you vote for your party and you just rank the parties by what their platforms are. But here in the States, you vote for the actual candidates. So it's a cultural difference. So anyway, short answer, Australia.
Okay.
And I also dropped Grady in the chat. The RCB Resource Center has a lot of good material and information, and it tends to be a little bit less biased than Fair Vote, which supports RCB, but some of the information sometimes gets called out for being too pro RCB. So they're both good resources.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the other one you mentioned?
Fair Vote looks like Tim dropped it right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
RCV Resource Center is fantastic, and they do, and I think they've got a good piece on the history of RCV also.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so my second question is what are the biggest misconceptions and criticisms that you see about RCV?
Sure. Well, let's see. The first one that comes up is this is too hard. Voters aren't going to be able to do it, which is why we love doing the tablings. And I had the most hilarious thing happen in Broomfield last year because we were able to have a candy election. So there were small children voting in the candy election and they couldn't even read yet. They had a favorite and a second favorite and a third. They had opinions, right? They can absolutely rank. And they were like asking for help with their ballots, like, which one's Kit Kats, which one's like, they knew the brands of the candies and the colors and, they knew that. And so someone was coming up to the table to say, is this too hard for people? I'm like, sir, a child half your size looks to be, I don't know, under first grade is handling it. Like people can handle it. So we have that, lived experience. And then we also have the data, the hard data on, how does it work exactly demographically? Is any demographic harmed by this or does less good? No. Every demographic handles the ballots just as well. So in our current ballots, it's a little skewy about who does, better or worse, but ranked choice becomes even and everybody handles it well. Every age, every income, every other demographic there is. Everybody can handle it. So, so that's, you know, the number one criticism I'd say that comes up. But we have a, I'm trying to think of others, but anyway, we get random stuff, or, you know, it isn't. Anyway, there was a, oh, I don't even know if I like regular choice voting. Like, okay, yeah, well, there's you. We're not going to win everybody, you know.
Yeah. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
Awesome, and great questions, Grady. Thank you. Next up, Dennis has got some questions about feasibility and how we get this done here in Colorado.
My favorite. So how we get it done here in Colorado. Okay, so this is, pardon me, I'm up. Someone destroying some chairs. I wish you would not. Okay. So how we get it done here. We have a bill coming up next session for ranked choice voting in the presidential primaries. And the reason for this is in the 2020 primary, some of the candidates, they had a very large field, and some of the candidates dropped out at the last minute. Klobuchar and Buttigieg dropped out at the last minute, and 150,000 Colorado voters had their ballots set aside, not counted at all. So that's not okay, and we don't want that to happen to any party's voters. So we're working on a bill for that to be used in 2024. So, and as I mentioned, we'll be rolling it out in Broomfield in 2023. So we will have proven that we can use it, and then we will use it. 99% of Colorado voters will be getting presidential primary ballots in the mail, except for us, you know, minor party people, we don't. But everybody else will get a ranked choice ballot in the mail, which then begs the question, what's this ranked choice ballot, right? So they'll have a lived experience, they'll see what it is, they'll figure it out, you know, there'll be resources online to explain what it is and how it works. And we know that people who use it like it and they want more of it. So, and that's based on our study, or studies in other cities, as well as the study we did in Basalt. So we, in 2024, will have a bill for ranked choice voting in statewide races. So people will use ranked choice in the spring, and then in the fall be asked if they want to use it more. So that's our pathway to getting ranked choice statewide. We are crunching, you know, looking at the polling, where we're going to be on proportional representation. If we can get it in 2024, we'll get it in 2024. You know, we'll go for that win in 2024. If we have to wait till 26, we'll do that. But, you know, I'm hoping to get that W sooner rather than later, that win sooner rather than later. And then there's cities that use proportional and they start in 2025. So it's all set to roll.
I just have a clarifying question, Linda. Can you lay that out in order? I think I got a little lost because you were talking about like this, but then if you go back and then it's over here in Broomfield. And so can you like go like this will happen first and then this will happen and then this will happen?
Okay, chronologically.
Yes, please.
Okay, chronologically. This spring, we're at the state legislature getting a bill passed. Next fall, we're in Broomfield using ranked choice for their municipal election, possibly in Boulder also. In
so this, wait, the spring bill is for the presidential?
Yep.
Okay. So spring of 2023, we have a bill for presidential.
Mm-hmm. Fall of 2023, at least one county coordinated election uses ranked choice. Spring of 2024, we have a bill for ranked choice statewide and an implementation of RCV in the presidential primaries. And then 2024, we have a statewide ballot measure.
And what is your confidence level on getting those bills passed?
So the presidential primary bill, well, it kind of has to do with the election this fall, but our presidential primaries bill could have gone this spring, but we didn't have as much Republican support as we wanted. And we thought the optics were going to be off if, and I say we broadly, it was the ranked choice coalitions. The consensus was, okay, this is a good idea, we can get it passed. But if it looks like this is a thing Republicans are telling Democrats to do, it's not going to play well. So we've been taking more time to build up more support with conservatives. So we've been down in Colorado Springs a bunch and down in like a Western Conservative Summit and that kind of thing. So knock on wood. Let's see, if the legislature stays as it is, we can absolutely get that through next year. You know, if it turns red, we may still get a win. We're not completely, you know, out of luck if the legislature shifts here in Colorado. And I'm not going to hazard a guess on that because I don't want to, you know, be complacent or anything like that. So, but we think we've got a strong case for it, and we have a Republican prime sponsor in the House and a Democratic prime sponsor in the Senate.
Okay. So sorry, Dennis, I was just asking clarification. Please continue with whatever questions you have.
No, I think that was mostly it. I mean, I think we're all advocates of ranked choice voting and the benefits it brings, but understanding kind of the roadmap of how we get from where we are today to some measure of success, which would be, you know, every election in the state of Colorado, and then, you know, every election in the US. But just wondering, like, if there was a plan to do more than, you know, tabling every couple of weeks, if you had thought about kind of the long game, and it sounds like you have, so that's great.
Thank you. Yep, it's been since 2016, so we've been fussing over this for a while.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dennis. That was a really good question. I got a lot of good info out. Next up, we got a question from Jacob about the relationship between RCV and the primary system.
Okay, so that is another nut to crack, because when do we get ranked choice in the primaries? So there are the presidential primaries that happen in the spring, and then the major parties have primaries that happen in the summer. And so getting that switched over is going to be a thing that happens, we're thinking, after ranked choice passes. So we'd have the state legislature passing a bill in 2020, in the spring of 2025. So it will get used in summer of 2026. So that's kind of the timeline there. And then we know, as a minor party, I'll also put forth that your colleagues over in the Libertarian and Green parties both use ranked choice in their internal deliberations. So, and I've done some of their ballot counts.
And specifically, what about open primaries? Do the current RCV implementation still have a general election with one Democrat and one Republican, and the RCV is only in the primaries, or would it come along?
I didn't, thank you for the clarification that you all are talking about the open primaries. So we currently have semi-open primaries. So the Democrats, you would be ranking the Democrats or ranking the Republicans. Now, there is a movement for these jungle primaries, or fully open, or Wild West primaries. They get called lots of different things. And my organization does not have a position on that, because we're waiting to see what all happened in Alaska. Our concern is that you're not going to have minor party candidates making it into the general election. So yeah, we're giving it the side eye. We're not officially against it, but we're certainly not for it right now, because Colorado has the best ballot access in the nation. So why Colorado would give that up is a is a big why, you know, and I could see the major parties with ranked choice allowing proportional representation within their parties, so that, you know, if we get to rank the choices on election day, then, you know, let Bernie and Biden and Yang be on the ballot. Like, let the people figure out who they can vote for, you know. If they want to have 2 or 3 people on the general election ballot, that's fine, but do we really need the fully open primaries? Conversations to be had, but that's, if that doesn't sound like a full answer, it's because it's still getting considered. And when I say considered, we work with political scientists, and those of you who've been to our policy committee meetings, yeah, we have the people from the political parties and the cities and the Secretary of State's office all hashing out the details.
Awesome. Now it looks like Pat had a follow-up question. I think it was about the ranking, either the Democrat or the Republican primary. Do you want to talk to that?
Yeah, when you were talking about the way the primaries are run now, with the independent voters, would it work the same way if we would get to rank either the Democratic candidates or the Republican candidates?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then we'll head over to Sass.
Hi again. So when Tim was talking to you about exhausted ballots, it made me think of the question, am I always able to rank every candidate?
Good question. You can rank, it depends on the ballot. We believe that in Colorado, the ballots will be 6 rankings long. So there's a study that the Secretary of State's office will be doing on exactly how many rankings to offer. So let's say you've got 10 candidates and 6 rankings. Well, you can rank 6. So if your tastes run towards the unusual, you might, you know, rank your favorite 5 and then start in that last 6th ranking to consider if you need to, you know, hedge your bets a little bit.
Okay, so so you are putting a negative spin on exhausted ballots then?
Wait.
You're saying, so because we were talking about exhausted ballots, and you were talking about, you know, people should have the freedom to not rank all the candidates, and I agree with that. If somebody doesn't want to, they shouldn't have to.
Mhm.
But you're saying that if I rank 6 candidates, but none of them are in, you know, the final 2, then my ballot gets exhausted because I wasn't able to get all the way down to, you know, 8 or 9 or 10.
Right. And so once again, it's the not a perfect world situation. Now,
Okay.
it's like I would rank the full ballot. Oh yeah, I'm there for it. I will rank all 25 candidates in the presidential race. Okay, maybe I won't. Some of them you cannot make me make a mark on a piece of paper for, but I'll rank everybody, right? Unless I really, really hate them. Okay, there's that. But most people won't go over 6. So we have to like build the what there is around what there is, like what we have to plan for reasonable conditions and how regular voters act. So although it's not 100% perfect, I'm just letting you know as a voter that you want to make sure that you are heard, and you don't want your ballot to be exhausted unless you want to be heard for saying, I throw my hands up in the air. Beyond these candidates I have ranked, the rest of you are equally bad. And if that's what you mean, by all means say it. If that's not what you mean, you might be that, you know, all 10 people in Colorado that need to think into that. But
Yeah.
those 10 people.
Does that show up in the tally? If like exhausted in the final tally, do exhausted ballots, are those reported?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
They are, okay, so they affect the percentages that the winners get in the final tally?
So they are, so each round has a fresh threshold. So the number, because the threshold is a percentage, the actual number of ballots in each round changes because there may be, a few ballots becoming inactive each round. So
Oh,
that,
so if I actively don't have a preference among the remaining candidates, which is why I didn't rank them, that doesn't get counted as like a none of the above vote, and so it just gets ignored.
right. So if you were in Nevada where none of the above is a candidate, in which case you would rank none of the above, which I don't think they've never had that win. So that's another thing for another state.
Right. No, but I'm just thinking about like, so that 50% threshold might sometimes not always be 50% if you have like a lot of voters who didn't rank either of the two last candidates.
So, yeah, so 50% is always 50%, just to say that. However, let's, to get into the brass tacks of it, Arrow's impossibility theorem, no perfect voting method exists. So the way that ranked choice finds consensus is that it's a percentage, not a hard number. So one of the reasons why we track that number is we want to see how often does it happen that whoever, like the final winner, did they pass the threshold, like what would have been required in the first round? And we see that well over 99% of the time, yes, that happens. So it's not perfect, but it is the best thing going.
There are no other ways to vote besides their current system and ranked choice?
No, there are. We'll have additional events in this series talking about other voting forms.
Yeah, and let me grab a comparison chart of that because I have for you all who wish to get really wonky, because there are other voting methods, and I'll just add in that they don't work out in government elections, but you may wish to consider them for use in your party. So here is a comparison of voting methods, and we see there is, strategic vote really comes into play on in the other voting methods. And these other voting methods that, although they have their enthusiasts, they have not been legally challenged. So it doesn't, from a practical point of view, like if you get some other method into implementation, which you wouldn't get support on it for one, but for two, you get into implementation and then it gets struck down in a court, you've just wasted a lot of time, money, and effort on something that didn't work. So, there's a problem with overtaxing people on, people's bandwidth on that. And then let me also grab this really quickly. Here is the link to copy link. Oh, no, go. Okay, so here is a flow chart I made of decision making using different voting methods. Some of the methods make sense for different reasons within parties. So as you're working on your party bylaws, you might want to use other voting methods if you want to do that. But one of the reasons we suggest to parties to make sure that you're using ranked choice in your party is that you're ready for it when it rolls out. Because there's more and more cities using ranked choice, and it's better to make the mistakes while the stakes are low. Oh, Dennis says I need to change the viewing permissions on the last link. I will do that.
And Pat has a question too.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, it's just in this year's midterms, all of the Democratic candidates ran unopposed. So there was nothing to pick. Do you think that would be different with RCV?
Well, we're seeing that more candidates do get into the race. So we believe that we will get more choice because that's what the evidence shows us.
Okay. Do you have any other
Questions? We've got one coming from Stu.
Hi, yeah, one of my concerns is what seems like an increasing tendency for voters to game systems, to build coalitions. How can RCV be gamed, and what can you do to control that?
Oh, okay. Good question. Now, people like to game things. That's how we are as creatures. But that being said, there hasn't been an effective means of gaming ranked choice that's been shown to have ever worked. And yes, there are, the Las Vegas set is all about trying to figure it out. They haven't been able to do it in 150 years. So I'm going to say it's not really going to happen, but I guess never say never. But there is no current means of ranking, gaming RCV. So that was the first part of it. As far as the coalitions go, it is important to develop coalitions in building the win. So that's a great way to get more bang for your buck in the campaign. If you have another candidate who even gives you the shout out like, hey, rank Curtis #2. I'm just picking on Curtis the whole time. Okay. Rank a forward party #2. That's free publicity. That's a good thing. Let's see.
Awesome. Any other final questions? Grady shared what sounds to be a very detailed comparison on voting methods in the chat.
Oh, let's see. Oh my.
Okay, finish that up, somebody tonight.
Okay. Where is it? Okay. I'll look at that.
337 pages.
I will get a.
There's actually somebody, oh, sorry.
I don't know if I've seen this before, but the one on, I'll take a look at it. And I will, I'll email the team, but there it is. Yeah, so we know this is something that works, ranked choice works, and it's available to us, and it's available to us soon. So and yes, there is the saying in public policy world that you don't want the perfect to be the enemy of the good. And although we did incorporate as real choice voting for Colorado, because if the perfect method comes along, we are for that. But in the interim, we are for the best thing going. And yes, we do annual reviews of literature. So the word here in 2022 is it's still ranked choice. So we're still going for it.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, a very deep thank you to Linda. Quick round of applause. She got us out of here with 15 minutes to spare. So thank you so much. That was incredibly educational and informative. I'll drop the link again to rcvforcolorado.org. You can sign up to volunteer. Like she said, they're tabling all over. So there'd be that's your way to get involved if you really want to advocate for RCV. And then we hope you guys join us again. We'll be doing a couple more of these events. Next up, we're going to talk about star voting with another subject matter expert, and then eventually approval. And then we'll kind of capstone the series if we don't find any other methods to add before the end, with like a discussion style event comparing them as we discuss what we want to use internally as a party and what we want to support externally. So we hope to see you guys there, and thank you again, Linda.